All right, we have another exciting Survivor All Star interview for you. We are now talking to the runner up of Survivor All Stars, Martha. Martha, are you there?
I'm here.
Great to see you again, Martha.
You too.
Let's just jump right into things. First of all, congratulations on getting to the end of the game. How does it feel to come in second?
I was so happy to come in second to Shandy. She's an extremely deserving winner, and I was happy to make it to the end, and I'm glad I got some votes. But in the end, I'm very happy to get second place to Shandy.
No feelings of upset, or were you at all disappointed?
Not really, actually. I mean, I wish I had been a little bit more articulate at tribal council. I didn't say exactly what I wanted to say in my final speech, especially, but and I think maybe that might have cost me, but I don't know. I think going into the tribal council, the majority was going to be for Shandy anyway, so I'm happy with getting second for sure.
So, what do you think happened at that final tribal council? It seemed like you were a little bit more on the defensive than Shandy had to be throughout.
Um, I guess yeah, maybe. I think I obviously felt a little more guilty throughout the season, or throughout the 3 days. Obviously, because I was crying a lot most often. Here's my cat, just so she wanted to be in
Did she
it.
did she vote for you for fan favorite?
No, she doesn't like me. Yeah, but anyway, I during the tribal council, I think I was trying to defend myself more, and I probably shouldn't have been so much on the defensive, and I should have more spoken to my strengths instead of trying to cover my tracks, I guess. Which is what Shandy did the opposite of what I did, I think, and maybe in the end that's why she pulled out the win.
Well, let's talk about the final speech you had was from Darren. Darren had some critical words for you. What were you thinking during that whole question?
Oh. I was pretty upset when he said those things. I didn't know what to say. That will show in the episode, obviously. I got pretty flustered and I tried to defend myself, and I didn't really explain why I thought he was wrong because I don't think at the time I really understood that he was a little off base when he said what he said. But now I know, like, I don't think it's fair to say that I played a personal game or that I was too emotional in the game or like that should be why I didn't win. Because in the end, my emotions never got the best of me. For instance, I voted out Maggie. I was very emotional about that. But obviously, I'm very close with her, both in the game and outside of the game. And although I was emotional about it, it didn't prevent me from doing it. And I think that actually sets me apart from Shandy because Shandy didn't like she did have an amazing social game and she made close relationships with everybody out there, but she didn't have the kind of relationships with people that I did with Maggie. So that didn't make it a hard vote for her, really, as hard of a vote as it was for me. So I think me being emotional about it is like I guess it might have been a little annoying, but it didn't um, impede my ability to vote her out, despite my friendship with her. So I think looking back on it, that's what I should have said to him. But
Well, we're recording all these interviews at the same time, so you guys have not had the chance to see each other's yet. I will tell you that Darren said in his interview that he regrets what he said, and going back, he would adjust his statement to say that he felt like you did play a strategic game, you just had an emotional reaction to it, and that watching the season, he could have very well seen himself voting for you in the end. But he said the place where this came from, and this didn't make the show, so it's something I want to talk about. He said his comment where it came from was at the Final Four when all this stuff happened with you wanting to vote off Maggie. You had made some comment, and I know it's also in an interview too. It didn't make the show about how you contemplated or said, I just would rather quit than deal with this.
yeah, the comment I think was actually I told Maggie because this also didn't make the show, but we were out in this field crying together for like probably 20 minutes going into tribal council. And my greatest fear was that, I mean, I do have this really close relationship with her outside of the game. We've been friends since we were about like 5 years old. So, I my greatest fear was that me voting her out, that she would take that personally, and that we wouldn't be friends outside of the game after that. So the comment that I made was, I said to her, if this is gonna hurt our friendship, I'll tell them to vote me out instead of you. And that's just I I really only said it because I was trying to calm her down. I would have done it if that's what she wanted, because of our friendship, and I really didn't want to lose that friendship with her. But that was the comment I made. I was not considering quitting at all. I was just saying like, because I was not taking things personally in the game. At least I was trying not to. I mean, my tears might have suggested otherwise, but I I would not have taken it personally if they'd voted me out at the final four, and it wouldn't have hurted my friendship with Maggie. So I guess the comment I made was I said to her, if this is going to hurt our friendship, they'll vote me out instead of you. So, and I think Darren, I knew that Darren was talking about that when he made that comment, because I could see him. He was kind of like, really, you would do that when I said that, but I guess I never had the opportunity to actually do it, so I don't know whether I would have done it or not.
So how are you and Maggie today?
Oh, we're better than ever. We're still really good friends.
Watching the season didn't bring back bad memories?
No. In fact, Maggie is really she's really funny about the season because she is stating herself now. She stopped playing strategically after the merge, because like as you see in the final tribal council, I asked her. We never had a final two deal, did we? And she's like really confused when I asked her that. Um, Now she realizes she wasn't ever thinking beyond final three. All she had in her head was me, Martha, and Shandy final three, and that'll be the end. Like she just stopped thinking, because I mean it's hard to think straight out there. But she just stopped thinking strategically after that final three deal was made. So that's why she thought it was weird for me to suggest that not having a final two deal with her was part of why I voted her out.
Well, it seemed like your game really revved up once you hit the merge.
Yeah.
What would you say to anyone who said that anyone who made the comment that you were lying too low in the beginning or you weren't playing the game at the beginning?
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't think I really had the opportunity to play the game at the beginning because we won the first three challenges or two,
Three?
three. Yeah, we won the first three challenges, and I don't think anybody except Darren and Michael really talked strategy at all on my tribe until like the fourth tribal council. So I didn't feel like I had the opportunity to strategize at all because we were all together at all times and we didn't talk individually with people. So yeah, I definitely laid low at the beginning. And I think I really hit my stride once we switched tribes, which was right after we voted off Taylor. Um, so yeah, I mean, I didn't like calculate the plan to vote out Brent at all. I sort of just jumped on that because it was an opportunity for me to not get voted out. But I think once Brent was voted out, I started really making deals with people and really strategizing, and then it just went up from there.
Well, let's talk about your closer to your end game here. Had you won that final immunity challenge, which with the wind and those cups, I don't know if that ever was going to happen. Who would you have taken to the final two? Because you promised both Darren and Shandy.
Yeah. The okay. I keep thinking about this because I think out there I probably I was really leaning towards Darren actually, because I felt like I was really worried about my chances against Shandy because I knew she was a really good talker, but then again Darren's a really good talker too. So I would have been really conflicted if I'd had to make that decision. I don't know. I think looking back, if I had to make the decision today, I would still choose Shandy, even though I know she beat me. But I think this sounds bad, but I really would not want to lose to Darren. That sounds like I just feel like Darren probably would have beat me too, because he played a really good game and he's friends with a lot of people on the jury, and he also would have been really good in a final tribal council situation, I'm sure. And I don't know, I just feel like I would be more comfortable getting second place to Shandy than I would to Darren. I can't explain why that is, but I don't know. I don't know what I would have chosen out there though. So.
Well, speaking of Shandy, she actually submitted a viewer question here for you. And Shandy's question was, if you had gone into the final three with her and Maggie, who do you think you would have taken to the final two?
I think I would have taken Shandy. I definitely, I've said, I've like, every time Maggie asks me this, because we had the final four there, and Maggie loves talking about what would have happened if we'd done this and all this kind of thing. Like, yeah, so I tell Maggie I definitely would have taken Shandy over Maggie, but I don't know who I would have taken between Shandy and Darren. So that's what I always say. And the reason I would have taken Shandy is because people well, okay, for one thing, I really never did have a deal with Maggie for Final Two, and I wouldn't have been going back on a deal if I voted Maggie out at Final Three. But um, I think people saw me and Maggie as this pair, which we were, granted for sure. But I think people like would have seen that, would have taken that against me if I'd taken Maggie to the final two. They would have just like, oh, that's just so predictable, or like just like typical Martha Maggie. And now I'm gonna vote for Maggie instead of Martha because like Martha just is taking. I don't know. It just would have held that against me if I had taken Maggie to the final two, and they would have actually been impressed with me. I think had I taken Shandy instead of Maggie to the final two, because they would have been like, "Oh, I guess Martha can break her relationships with people out here." So
Okay, well, you were very popular this season, and we got a viewer question here I want to read. This viewer question comes from Riddle Me Timbers, a frequent commenter. Riddle Me Timbers writes, Martha, I'm so proud of you. I think I'm your biggest fan, and I'm glad I got to see you again. I have a serious question and a fun question. Serious one first. Were you always planning on teaming up with Maggie? If so, how did you make people realize that you guys weren't as close as you were?
okay, yeah, I was planning on teaming up with Maggie. For one thing, because I don't think she would have ever forgiven me had I not teamed up with her whenever we had the chance. Because we had just strategized so much before the game, or not strategized, but just like talked together about the game. I think she would have been really hurt had I not teamed up with her, and because I can trust Maggie really well, and it's just a really smart decision for me to um, have somebody like that who will do what I say and will trust me, and who I can trust that will do whatever, or not do whatever I say, but like won't go behind my back, because Maggie's not really a backstabber. I think I had to like do a lot of like trashing Maggie, not trashing, like on the other tribe, or my first tribe, I kind of like made it seem like I really didn't want to work with Maggie again, and like made it seem like I was sort of resentful of her that she had beat me the last season. I had this talk with Amanda at one point where I said like, if Maggie beats me again, I'm gonna be just really mad. Like that would just be devastating, because she rode my coattails last season and she made it so much farther than me, and it just made me upset. So I kind of played that up a little bit, which really isn't true. Like I didn't help. I was totally fine with her beating me last season, but I sort of played that up and made it seem like I really didn't want to work with Maggie. Tyson and Kellen, Connor and Kellen
Mm-hmm.
were with each other. They were like so animate about how they would not want to work with each other anymore, because they had worked together in their previous season, and then Kellen had beat Connor. So it was sort of similar to that. Like I was like, God, I can't. I just like didn't want to work with Maggie because she had beat me, and I just couldn't see a relationship like that working. And so I played that up a lot. And then once we switched tribes, I think our relationship became a little more clear. Like Mike and Kyle definitely saw how close we were, and I think Shandy did too. Shandy definitely was afraid of that, but she also worked it to her advantage, being the third member of our alliance. So yeah, I think people like watching the show. It seems like people were more afraid of me and Maggie as a pair than I thought, because obviously we were a big pair. Like there were several pairs in this season. And all of the pairs were targeted except for me and Maggie. I think, yeah, it's just interesting to see that from the season, because when I'm watching it, it seems like people were more worried about it than it seemed like when I was actually out there.
Mm-hmm. And then he writes here, now the fun question. Why are you such a goddess?
Well, I guess goddess is in my blood. I was born that way, I guess, and it's just part of who I am as a person. Yeah, so thanks for the fun question.
We can't go through an interview without asking you about the move that happened at the final six. Definitely got a lot of reaction from everyone watching. It was confusing to be there. It was confusing to edit that whole sequence. Can you talk a little bit more about that, how you came to that conclusion?
Yeah, so I was really scared after Sigrid tried to play the idol for Amanda at the tribal council before that. Yeah, was that the tribal council before that? I think
Uh-huh,
so.
yeah.
Yeah. When I found out that Sigrid had an idol. Anyway, I got really afraid of that. Because I knew now both sides there. It seemed like it was 3-on-3 at that point. Which it was. And seeing that both sides had an idol, I thought, well, this is not going to be good. We have to figure out how to get around that. And I really wanted Amanda out, obviously, but then she won immunity. But actually, it had been that the night before that when I had that talk with Amanda, where I said like I don't want Maggie to get farther than me, and like I would vote Maggie out if that's what it took for me to get farther than her. So I'd planted that seed in her head, sort of, um, that I would be willing to vote Maggie out, and that I would go against her to do that, so that I could get farther. So Amanda sort of had that idea in her head that I would do that. And then Amanda won immunity, and I was trying to figure out what we should do. And I knew Maggie had her idol, so I was pretty sure Maggie was going to have to play the idol. So I thought, why don't we get them to target Maggie, and make it seem like Shandy and I are going to play with them, um, so that then Maggie would play her idol, and they would think that we were for sure voting with them, so they wouldn't try to play their idol. Is what my first thought was. But then the more I thought about it, the more I realized, I guess, had Maggie played her idol, then Sigrid would have, or one of the three of them would have wanted to play the idol because the person they'd voted for votes would be immune. So I thought as soon as Maggie plays her idol, Sigrid will play her idol. So we can't target Sigrid. And so then then I was like, okay. So then, since Amanda's won immunity, we're gonna have to target Darren. And I knew Shandy was close with Darren. But I just thought, I guess if Sigrid's gonna play her idol, then we shouldn't throw the votes to Sigrid. We should put them on Darren. And then Shandy was really adamant about not voting about not voting out Darren. So she sort of figured out, I don't know if she did this or if she like, I don't know how Darren ended up getting Sigrid's idol. I really don't really know how that happened, but Shandy knew that Darren had Sigrid's idol. Um, and so then I think at that point I had realized, had we voted for Darren or Sigrid, it would have been a 50-50 chance whoever Sigrid played the idol for, and we might have still had a revote. So, and then at that point, Shandy probably would have flipped, is what I was thinking. So at that point, I realized we were going to have to split the vote, which was risky because it's only three people splitting the vote, and I didn't want somebody to go home with just one vote against them because that would be like really sad for that person. But so I figured we're gonna have to split the vote between Darren and Sigrid, and whoever plays the idol, the other person is going home. Um, and then Shandy wasn't really down for that until Darren had the idol, and she knew it wouldn't be Darren going home, or she felt like it wouldn't be Darren going home. And so then she thought, okay, well, we can do this then. And I think both she and Maggie were really confused about the plan when I was trying to explain it to them. I had it really clear in my head, but it was hard for me to articulate what I was trying to say. And Maggie was like really afraid that they weren't gonna target her, because she like, I think she just like was really paranoid about people knowing about her idol. But really, I think me and Shandy were the only people who knew about her idol the whole game. I think maybe like Kyle or Mike had a suspicion or something, but yeah. So I think once I got them on board, it was clear Maggie was gonna vote for Darren, Shandy and I were gonna vote for Sigrid, and whoever didn't play the idol of Sigrid and Darren, that the other person would be going home. So then when Darren tried to play the idol and Amanda was like, "Oh, play it for Sigrid, don't play it for Darren, or don't play it for you," and Shandy was like, "No, Darren, you have to play it for you," because she really wanted Darren to stay. And Darren like asked me or like he was asking me and Maggie both what he should do, and I was just like, doesn't matter, because I mean, I don't care. So then he just played it for himself, and Sigrid went home, which I felt bad about, but she was, in the end, she was not in my alliance. So
Well, I'm so impressed that you can keep that whole plan straight, because even listening to that, that was A little bit hard to follow, but it worked out for you very well. The other question I wanted to ask you is, what do you think of yourself on the show? How you're portrayed? Do you think the show accurately captured your game plan, or were there things that were left out, things that didn't make the show?
I definitely liked watching myself better this season than the season before. I was viewed as cocky as the season before, and I sort of was cocky. I mean, I was just a little overconfident in myself um, because I didn't know the game as well, I guess. I had more experience this time, so I was a little bit more careful. And I think I was portrayed pretty accurately to how I was feeling out there. I'm glad my crying didn't make as much as the episode says it was, because in reality, I was probably crying almost all of day 3 and half of day 2. So yeah, I'm glad that that wasn't on camera as much as it actually happened. But other than that, I think it was very accurate.
Any regrets? Anything you do differently?
Um, well, I always think about what would have happened had we not voted out Kyle at Final 9 or Final 8, whatever. Um, and had we just kept Kyle and Mike around, or had I tried to keep Mike at Final 7 a little harder than I did. And I think I don't think I regret not, or I don't think I regret out or getting them voted out, but I think it would have been different. I think I probably still would have had a chance to get as far as I did, because if it got down to Final 5 between me and Maggie, Shandy, Mike, and Kyle, they would have voted for Shandy, and the three of us would have voted one of them out. Probably Kyle if he didn't win immunity, and I still probably would have made it to Final 3 with Maggie and Shandy probably. Shandy didn't want that because she wasn't as close to Mike and Kyle. So in the end, I think it made a more interesting season to have it come down to 6 with the two alliances pinned against each other. And I think it's a more interesting season to watch. I wouldn't have been able to do a move like the Sigrid move had we kept Michael and Kyle around and voted Amanda out at the 8. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any regrets.
Well, we thank you so much for being part of the show twice. Are there any last thoughts you'd have for your fans watching, or about the experience as a whole?
Well, I just want to thank my fans. It's really fun reading the comments, and I'm glad people liked me more this season. I know people liked me last season, but I was viewed a little bit more sympathetically this time, I think, which was nice. And I'm glad people came around on me. And yeah, so just thanks for watching, and I really enjoyed my time on Survivor.
Well, congrats again on a job well done, and we wish you all the luck as you continue being the goddess you are.
Thank you.